Bro, you missed it. I
Jace,
got
why didn't you
Xanax.
come in, Jace, man? You know you're a chemist. This is your field. Let's have a discussion on this.
What are you
The
guys talking about?
emulsion, the camera,
Oh,
the
no.
film.
Yeah, yeah. You've been on about this Hasselblad thing since I first known you. This was one of the first things I heard you talking about years ago, and you
Yeah,
still don't know nothing about it.
and they still
Just kidding.
a lot of people still don't get it. Yeah, I know.
uh,
Nobody listens to the
they don't listen.
absolute obvious. Yeah, yeah.
They're just waiting to talk, bro. No one. That's another problem here. Nobody listens. They're just waiting to talk. I'm guilty of that too myself sometimes. Like I'm waiting for the person to be done talking so I can get my thing out. I'm not even paying attention to what you're saying, really.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to forget the thing I was gonna say.
Like, look, Jace, I tell them it's mostly about the pressure, right? They let that go completely, and they just talk about temperatures. You know? Oh, wait a
I
minute.
mean,
Jace
I
did
think the
mention the
temperature.
pressure there. Yeah.
I think
Sorry,
the
Jace. Yeah.
temperature is. I think the temperature is significant too. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Those two factors, temperature and the pressure. There's no way that camera, the film and the camera could function in that environment without being under some sort of pressurized environment, like sealed. It's
Like
like
it
going
wasn't in the
underwater, right?
Yeah, it wasn't in the pressure temperature controlled suits. It was an external part of that, right?
Exactly. Yep.
It's
Had
not
no
so if
heating.
you yeah, so when you get in the shade, 100
Yeah.
or negative whatever, it's freezing in the shade, and then if you get in the sunlight, whatever, maybe it's warm, maybe it's not. Either way, the camera has to work in that freezing temperature.
Oh, it is warm. It is warm. It gets above water boiling temperatures. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why they painted it silver.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That should do it. So just paint all your cars silver. Those of you that live in hot environments, and when you get in the car, there'll be no heat there because the silver paint would have just blocked it
Yeah,
away.
I mean, what kind of thing? I'd be interested in what the lens looked like
The lens
with the
was a
inside
regular
of the.
lens.
Yeah, so it's glass and then black behind it.
It's what and what? Say again.
You got glass. The front of the lens is glass, right?
Yeah.
Behind the lens, inside the lens is black, right?
Well, obviously the lens is clear, and you have your shutter. You have the shutter there, right? The lens that
Yeah,
lets
but
the
what's
light in and
behind
out.
the? I know what's behind the lens is what I'm asking.
I know they put a Rizzo plate. You know that thing with the crosses. Now I can't remember if that was. I think that was directly behind. I'm not exactly to tell you 100% sure.
Have you ever seen a camera lens where it'll be like the glass piece will be on the front, and then inside of it, behind the glass piece, it will be all black.
Well, that's the shutter, Jeremy. That black thing that you're saying, that's the shutter. You know when they take off the SLR cameras when they take off the thing, the lens. That black part, I
No,
think you're referring to the shutter, the thing that opens and closes to let the light in.
maybe.
Yeah, but
I gotta get a good look at one of these cameras.
you have to understand that the issue, right? The issue is the weathering of the camera. In other words, if you take a normal camera and you want to bring it underwater, it's logical that you're going to put it in a some sort of container, right? To keep the water out. Well, the same thing in
Yeah,
space. If you're going to take, forget about space, a vacuum. If you're going to take something into a vacuum that has openings in it, right?
yeah.
You're gonna wanna pressure. You wanna close that. Yeah.
My concern is with the lens. Like you have a piece of glass there or whatever. So I've made solar heaters before, and when they hit the sunlight, okay, I have a door on my front door is painted black, but then I have one of those glass screen doors in front of it, and I have a south facing house. Front of my house faces south, so my door gets hot as fuck. You can almost burn your hand if you left your hand palm on it. And if that was happening up there on the moon where the sun was just going right through it, through the glass, and then hitting something in the back, you've got a serious fucking heat issue there. Like serious heat issue, because my door gets hot as fuck when the light goes through Earth's atmosphere, and I don't know how much of the heat or whatever that blocks, but if you're in space and you have no Van Allen belts or ionospheres or whatever to block some of the rays and shit, it might be even worse.
Yeah, and you don't need to be no camera expert to understand this stuff, right? You really don't.
I don't know shit about cameras. That's just basic, like, that's just like how the sun works.
Yeah, and if you understand what pressure is, right, and how the film is made, that the film has emulsion, and that emulsion would evaporate in a pressure environment. That's all you need to know. You don't really need to be an expert in anything. Just watch a couple of videos on water boiling in a vacuum.
Here's what you got to do. SE. Listen to me. We got to get some of that emotion, bro. We got to mix some up.
What's that?
Spring training starts today.
Hold on, somebody's on my
Oh, does it?
Yeah, the Royals are playing the Rangers
Barrel.
today.
Oh, that's early.
Barrel rider. There we go. Fuck, what was I saying?
What we got to do.
Oh, here we go. What we got to do is get some of that emulsion, bro. We need that emulsion. Whatever their chemical, they got the recipe and shit, right? We got to get the recipe.
Yep.
Hopefully it's not like the secret Coke recipe, and we can just get the recipe, mix some of that emulsion up, put it in a vacuum, and just show them.
I can tell you what some of it is.
Bro, there's not going to do me no good. We got to just mix some up and put it in a vacuum, bro. That's the only way these guys will. You got to show them, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
You never mentioned the collagen. You never mentioned the collagen technology they had at the time that was within the film. And I kept on showing you, SE, and you didn't respond to it. There's collagen in there. And the collagen that they use in there enables it to withstand much higher heats and fairly low heats.
Are you mistaking the gelatin? Are you referring to the gelatin, maybe?
That's correct. Collagen.
Do you know what the gelatin is made out of?
Bones and decaying animal hides.
Correct. So you did some research. I'm glad for that. Now, do you understand how that would not? Sorry?
No, apologies. Nothing.
No apologies. What do you
were
mean?
saying? No, sorry. I wasn't going to say anything. Apologies. So carry on.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. So I'm glad you did some research and found out that they're made of animal hides and bones and horns and hooves. But that's just it. That's stuff that would boil off into space. Do you understand that now?
Yeah, but I understood that from the start. Well, no,
Are
I
you
didn't
sure?
understand
Then
that
why did we get into this argument then?
I'm lying. I researched it after we spoke, so I didn't know from the start. No.
Okay, fair enough. So no worries, man. Like no worries. I don't want to pick a beef with you. It's just some knowledge.
I dig you. See, I dig you, mate. So like, I would never want to get on the bad side. I wouldn't want us to get on the bad side because we just bring out the worst in each other. So, or and text can look very sort of in either way. But yes, the collagen and other links that I sent you yesterday and today with the temperature variations that these things can withstand. So the technology came out with NASA in '69 and was released by Kodak in about 74, 75. The same technology of which they had added a magnetic. There's two words: as magnets and something else. They had added another two technologies as well to it. They had to do something magnetically to the film as well, and magnetically it could have had more of a barrier to other elements or other degrading type of forces. But as long as the temperature at that time when they got the camera out into the atmosphere was suitable, then they could have pulled it off. And then, yeah, you would have sealed up the camera just to make sure it didn't decay itself. Not forgetting just the film, but the camera itself, the functionality of the lens and everything that would need to move. So surely you would have thought that they would seal the thing up unless they were certain that it would survive. No?
I agreed with you. Surely they would have done it, right? They would have done so, but they didn't, bro. That's my whole point.
Unless if it's in an environment that's not a vacuum, but it doesn't have the like oxygen, maybe oxygen causing rusting on iron. So if there's no oxygen present, then possibly there wouldn't be the deterioration of the oxygen elements within that film, or similar. Or the lack of hydrogen. If you get hydrogen and oxygen and put them together, in other ways you get sulfuric acid, you get hydrochloric acid. You know what I mean? They're just two chemicals that are mixed together in a certain recipe. So if the moon surface doesn't have something there that deteriorates stuff, then there's one variable that we can take away in comparison to a vacuum chamber on Earth, possibly.
Right. Like if the conditions are different, like you say, if they were different, right, then yeah, you can make that argument. You know what I'm saying? But we're going by what they tell us the conditions are. So, for example, Armstrong, when he landed, he said that they were worried because it was 120 degrees when they landed, and they were worried about their suits because they were new suits and they had the new tubing inside. Now, don't think I believe this for a second, right? I'm just telling you the story.
But you'll find the technology, the Apollo and the Gemini mission, if I remember correctly, reading it recently today, was that the technology they had was the coolant went back to the shuttle, and then back to them. So the converter and stuff like that, the radiator, whatever you want to call it, was the shuttle itself. So if they weren't linked, and I don't remember seeing cords of them linked. Did we see tubing of them?
No, that's another thing. Yeah, that's another thing you mentioned. First of all, it's called the LEM, right? The LEM. And no, they did not. They weren't corded like an umbilical cord when they landed on the moon. Yeah, they were. The suits were freestanding. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was interesting. It said Apollo mission, so they must have been talking about any Apollo mission and not just the first one. It could have happened in the second or third. So yes, having tubing in there, they had something to do with nickel plating particles within the tubing, and the nickel helped absorb the heat or dissipate the heat, and it helped with the cooling. I wonder if they used synthetic fluids that we use in our car, which are sugars, to help that. But still, the wording did say that it was 200 degrees on Fahrenheit on the moon, but it didn't quite say they were in the conditions of 200 degrees Fahrenheit at that time or at that location. So I think wording can say factual without challenging the actual precise context. You know what I mean? So they can give you two facts, but it's up to you to decipher whether they are of the same or if they are just similar.
Right. Well, I read what Neil Armstrong said. He said, you saw that thing I posted, right? So I didn't make it up. So I'm going by what they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but I went to the same website you did because the writing and the format was exactly the same. And on there, it kind of doesn't actually pinpoint that they were in those conditions. It just pinpoints that the moon or part of the moon would be under those conditions.
It's strange how they contradict themselves because Neil Armstrong clearly stated that the suits, they were under orders from NASA to stay maximum 2 to 2.5 hours because they wanted to control, they wanted to see how long that those suits would would last and keep them cool because it wasn't untested, and they were afraid of the astronauts suffering from hypothermia.
Aha.
Yeah.
So there would have been something to do with hypothermia being one thing, but if their present temperature was 200 degrees Fahrenheit at that time, then if their suits were cooled by, let's just say, an ice pack, for example, but something a bit more,
Did I
and
say hypothermia? I think I may have misspoken. The
you
condition
wouldn't
when you
think.
heat, when you overheat. Yeah.
Yeah, but but even hypothermia could be for the fact that your suit is cooling you too much. You know what I mean? You can refrigerant, butane gas, refrigerants and stuff like that. The things they use for freezers, etc., etc. You could just actually just have a liquid, a coolant liquid in the suit that could withhold and wouldn't release. Something that keeps its temperature well, a good conductor of,
Well, that's what they had. They had a suit lined with plastic tubes filled with water,
and
and
nickel.
they had a cooling system.
No, they had nickel,
They
and
had
I
nickel
think
as well. Okay, yeah.
right. So, but definitely, if we took all the ingredients, then we would be able to look up and actually we would find proof that you could make a suit cold. You know the things that you do. Oh shit! I'm just trying to think of a cold pack. There's one where you can make it hot. It's got like it's like a pack, plastic pack, gelatine pack, and if you snap it, it gets hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was
They
some
mixed two chemicals together. Yeah.
correct. So if you do the same thing, to do the opposite effect, you could pull it off, couldn't you? For 2.5 hours.
I really don't know. I can't say. As far as I know, they had a mechanical backpack powered by batteries, if I'm not mistaken, and it was and it cooled the liquid. If that not have been there, they would have boiled from the heat. Oh, and another thing, by the way, the suit. Don't get me started on the suit because the suit is just as bad as the camera. There's no way that suit could have maintained pressure. They had zippers in it, for one, and it was sewn together. So the suit, impossible as well. You might want to look into that. Yeah.
You've got to admit, it sounds like the pressure is pretty sort of suitable because otherwise the camera would have just fucking compressed or exploded or whatever. It would do something extreme. So it sounds like the pressure was pretty well. It would have been decent.
So you're assuming that they were there and they did what they did, the way you're talking now.
Oh no, I'm not assuming. No, I'm saying they would have had to. They would have had to have had decent pressure. But if we could find
Right.
if we could find that there is some truth into it, we might learn something new as how an atmosphere on whatever it is, how it can create an atmosphere and how that atmosphere is separated from, the rest of space. How does it keep to its own? So that's something to worth looking at. I mean, things like if you've got a sodium environment, it will retain its heat longer than a non-sodium environment. I could be wrong in that. Sodium and water boils at a higher, so it doesn't boil as quickly. I guess just mixing all the facts up and getting, understanding if there's any truth to it, whatever case, if we are a flat earth or whatever like that, and we've got a local moon, would they have visited the moon in any sort and still be something that's possible,
Yeah, well,
I mean,
you can speculate. And me, what I try to do is I try to do this. I listen to what they say and I say, wait a minute. They say they're in a vacuum. They say the temperature is so much, there's radiation. This is all physics now, right? Then they say, well, we have this camera, which is physical. We know how the camera operates. We know how the film works. And you You just logic it. This is not difficult. That camera, it's impossible for it to work in the environment that it claims to be in. There's no need to go into any more fancy details like that. I can, right? But I try to make it as simple as possible. In other words, comparing a camera underwater, not being sealed, with a camera in the moon, on the moon, and those conditions in a vacuum not being sealed. That's very simple to understand.
There's no way. I mean, is there no way that they had this camera inside of some type of thermal jacket or anything like that? I mean, I haven't looked into it. Was there no shielding at all?
No, I can tell you what they did to the camera for that. The only thing they did, because those Hasselblads come with a leather casing, and I kid you not, this is official. What they did was they took the leather off and they painted it silver for the heat and the radiation. That's what they say they did for those two things. I kid you not.
And this was all filmed. I mean, did they not just film everything inside the shuttle? Something comes to mind of a pre-filming or something like that. They done 2 reels or whatever, but I'm going off key. Did they not film all this from inside? This
Yes, they had inboard. They had cameras inside. They did.
What
but
about, what about fiber optics? So you leave the camera inside the thing, but you can just use a fiber optic tube to film what's going on.
No, there was
How
no
about
fiber optics. No, there was none of that. No. As far as I'm aware, I don't even think they had fiber optics as part of the
Cool, man.
mission. Yeah.
But you've got to admit that you know, it wasn't that long ago. Well, sorry, it was quite a long time ago when we had the ability of spy equipment and mini cameras and all these different things.
I'm glad you said
So
that.
I think we
Have a look.
did have the capability to have something that could withstand.
Yes, I'm glad. You're breaking up. I don't know if you're done or not. You still there?
Yes, mate. I was just going over to the text, so I went on mute. I didn't see anything.
No worries. No. Listen, what I'm going to tell you now. You're on to something. They did have that technology. What you're saying, but guess what? All those high altitude things, check them out. Without a doubt, with every single one of them, had them in a pressurized chamber. Every one of them. Have a look. In other words, you can't change physics. You can't make a camera work in those environments. It's like saying taking a camera and making it work underwater. It's just with film. It's just not going to happen. The water's going to rush in. It's going to ruin everything. In the other case, on a no vacuum or high vacuum environment, as they call it, everything would just outgas. Complete destruction.
Yeah, but like I said, you wouldn't need to have the camera outside of the vessel. You would just
But they
need
did.
to just get a fucking hose pipe. But did we see it? Did we see them holding it? Was the camera connected to anything? Was the camera just a casing of some sort that wasn't a camera itself? It was just an extension, a slave camera. You know,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just
I'll show you.
basically.
I'll show you, bro.
Yeah, but
Hold on.
was the film camera that they were using on the moon, or was this was saying it's like, did we see them actually holding the camera, or did you just see an image?
You're
Both.
clawing at the walls, man. He's giving you all the answers. Just bear with him, let him prove it to you, and you can make up your best mind.
I'll get you a picture. Hold on.
Yeah, I saw a TikTok, right? So I don't know how much you can take this, but they said they had guys remote view the moon landing, and the remote viewer said, yeah, it actually did happen, but they also filmed other shit just in case it didn't happen. So I don't know. That's that remote viewing thing that guy Nick Flick can hear me. We need him to remote view the fucking moon landing.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Here's the camera for
About
you, buddy. You see the camera attached to his chest there? That's it. That's the Hasselblad, painted silver. I'm not just talking out of my rear. I've been looking into this for quite a while. And I've been challenging ballers. So far, none of them has come with any proof of any weathering about this camera. Zero, none, not one person. This and the spacesuit kills the moon fantasy every day of the week. Easy, not even hard.
I did see fine. I did see in the top picture that there was a tube, a white tube, and I'm thinking, why would they need an external tube for an internal suit? So there is a form of tube in there, and I wonder if that has got something to do with the camera.
It does not. It does not.
Yeah, yeah. It's, if we did go to the moon and the Earth was flat, that would settle an argument, wouldn't it? I mean,
No.
if they went,
Say it again.
if they actually went to the moon, and the moon is and the Earth is flat as we think, then that's why wouldn't we be able to go to the moon if the Earth was flat? We'd still be able to go to the moon, wouldn't we? It would just
Yeah,
be we would just know it's a lot closer, you know.
yeah. This is not about a shape argument. This is about an environment argument.
Yeah, but if the Earth, yeah, but if the Earth was flat and we could go to the moon, it still wouldn't. It's as good as, isn't it? You know, if it survived the if the
you're
couldn't,
grasping for straws right now, bro. I mean,
um,
what SE just showed you was the fact that what they told you has major contradictions within the narrative. Now you've got to question if this ever really happened, but instead you're going straight to the fact that even if the Earth is flat, we could still go to the moon, and you want us to agree with that. This isn't a matter of agreeing. It's a matter of critical thought and the possibilities thereof or not.
I don't feel
I
like
mean,
I don't feel
don't
like I'm. No, I don't feel like I'm at a loose end, just like you were trying to describe.
I could
If
be
the
wrong.
if the environment and the temperature up there is of X temperature, then the pressure is going to be different than its surrounding pressure because its temperature has changed. Just like if you've got a bottle, a half-filled bottle of water, and the temperature changes, the vessel changes shape. But if the vessel were to keep its shape, then there would be a difference of pressure inside the container. So you can change the pressure of the environment on the surface of the moon easily because the temperature has changed. If you put water on a stove and you put the lid on, the pressure changes, doesn't it?
Okay.
So by adding heat, the pressure can change.
Okay.
So therefore, it is feasible that you could have the environments necessary and the correct and the necessary pressures
I
on the
mean,
moon.
you do realize that we're talking 10 to the negative 17 torr, right?
What does that mean?
That means that in order to have a pressure differential, you'll have to have molecules and atoms in abundance, i.e. an atmosphere, to provide a medium. If that medium is stretched so far thin, how do you have any positive pressure?
Well, if you had a ball of ice that was porous, when you melted the water, its volume would increase. So something similar like that, you can change. You can change the volume of that ball to something a bit bigger because it's thawed out. So with regards to an atmosphere, being the thawing out of something can create an atmosphere that's bigger in volume than what it's trying to, what it's surrounding.
Can you ever have pressure without containment?
Depends what type of pressure. If you've got two magnets, that's
Well,
pressure.
we're talking about gas pressure, not
Compressed.
interaction between two solid.
I think if you were to have something like, in a mild example, like hexafluoride, I think it's called, that's really heavy compared to something that's really light. I think in ways you would need an overall container, but the boundary between those two gases is not a container, it's just a boundary. So the containment would be of a chemical composition.
And you think that's equivalent to the moon's containment?
If the moon is porous, then it's basically going to just hold its own and hydrate and dehydrate and change temperatures. When it's in full moon status, it's at its hottest. When it's a new moon status, it's at its coldest. And it's 120 Celsius hot, 130 Celsius negative when it's cold. That's you take water from ice to boiling point and observe the pressure differentials. You know what I mean? By putting a lid on it, easy. We see the densities of liquids and form an order. If you put water inside cold oil, the water will sink. If you heat the oil up, the water will flow. You know?
Sure. I mean, temperature and pressure,
basic astronomy.
mediate, 99% of physical interaction. I understand that, but we're trying to speculate about the possibilities of ever being in that environment, i.e. the moon, and what that environment's like and what that would require. I just don't want us getting too far off the topic.
I mean, if the moon, yeah, I totally agree. If the moon had the ability to repel nitrogen, then its atmosphere could be everything that is ours except nitrogen. Ozone 3, ozone 4, ozone 5, ozone, all sorts of stuff. Sulfur, I'm pretty sure is the main ingredients in its atmosphere. So sulfur, heat blanket, methane type of thing, you can get a blanket, just like we have. We have the ozone layer, we've got the methane layer, we've got all these different layers above us because they're all different densities and different whatever. They do form an order. They don't need any scattering going on because gases have densities just like everything else. So the conditions on the moon at that time were ideal. There was something like between 6 degrees and 23 degrees, or maybe, but not extreme. So with collagen and the magnetic treatment of the film at the time, it would have withstood the temperatures. and the pressures would have changed into more suitable pressures because the equilibrium always has to happen, doesn't it?
I mean, I feel like you're like convincing yourself, and that's fine if that's what's required for you not to shift your paradigm. But just be honest with yourself is all I ask.
Yeah. I mean, how? Be honest with myself. No, I'm a chef, so I understand, you know, the results of using sugars and vinegars and alkalines and everything like that. And you could easily replicate, the moon, for the moon to be at the furthest away from us, it would probably be at its hottest. If you get vinegar and water solution, bring it to simmering point, and throw an egg in, the egg will sink to the bottom. As soon as the heat gets to the middle, it floats because of the proteins. So, you know, in basic stuff like that, the moon, the moon's not going to be extreme temperatures, and the camera would have survived at that time.
Bro, at what time? You're thinking about one time at dawn, you're saying, when they landed, right? And then I showed, and it said about 40 degrees C. But then I showed you Neil Armstrong himself saying that when he landed, it was 120 degrees. And they were testing out their new suits because of the tubing and the water. They weren't sure how long it would keep them cool. And they kept them on a short leash. I mean, you would have to ignore all that, bro. To go
Dude,
with
it's so
one thing you
obvious.
got from an Indian website, like, I don't know.
Dude, it's so obvious it wasn't real. You're on a terrain filled with sharp, jagged rocks all over the fucking place, and you're just bouncing around like bunny rabbits. Get the fuck out of here. You're
Yeah,
risking
with
the
the
whole mission,
material too.
everyone's life. You're risking the whole mission, everyone's life, because you're bouncing around like a fucking bunny rabbit. That's stupid. No way they would do that. They would be like, walk carefully, don't jump around. You don't want to fall and rip your suit or crack your face shield open or something. Stupid.
Yeah, you'd really have to have a like an imagination out of this world to believe that. If you don't know, you don't know, right?
You want to tear your suit?
Yeah.
You want to
I
tear
mean,
your suit?
how long were they on the moon for? They would have had a small window of maybe 6, 12, 18 hours max on the moon before the things got ridiculous. So maybe when they landed on the moon, there was at their temperature, but soon, give or take a few hours, their window was, you can come out this time, the temperatures will be fine, you've got to get back at this time, otherwise you're going to get roasted. So maybe factual, the temperatures were that when they landed, but not when they got on the actual moon itself.
Well,
You think they
I'm
really
going
landed
with
on the
what
moon?
the astronaut said. He said when they landed, it was 120 degrees, and they were worried about their new suits, if they were going to make it or not. That's what I'm going by. Anything else to me is speculation. Sorry, man. I'm going from the horse's mouth. What the horse that landed supposedly in this fantasy world, what he said. But even if it was 40 C, right? Even if I give you the temperature as a present, here you go, 40 C, which is, quite hot to begin with. What are you going to do with the pressure? How are you going to handle the pressure or the lack thereof? There's no way around that. You can't say because it's 40 C now instead of 120 that the pressure changed so much. Is that what you're trying to claim? Like I'm trying to find an argument here. I don't see an argument. There's no logical argument here.
How embarrassing would it be if one of the astronauts fell when they were jumping around like maniacs, if they fell and cracked their face shield or ripped their suit and just fucking died? That's embarrassing. You didn't tell them to walk carefully. Hey, don't jump around. Maybe take normal steps.
Probably plot every inch of ground you're gonna walk on, less rocks, and watch this. And you're certainly not gonna play golf or jump up and down, right? I
Yeah, you're
mean,
not
No,
going to be
no.
bunny hopping all over the place. That's for sure. I mean, I don't know. That's just me. I would have told the guys to walk carefully. Like, hey, let's not fuck around. Be careful
Bro.
up there.
yeah, bro, they brought golf clubs. Seriously, they brought golf clubs to the moon. Every pound apparently is is like thousands of millions of dollars or whatever, and they brought golf clubs. Yeah, like you can have a field day ridiculing that all day long. Just that, the Apollo moon landing.
Yeah, there's no way we went on the moon and then lost the footage or the telemetry data. Like, I understand data gets lost. We lose data every day, right? Some guy has a bunch of his family's pictures on his cell phone, and his cell phone gets dropped in the ocean. They're gone forever, right? Yes, we lose data all the time. That's not a new thing. However, if you have the most historic event of human history, like, I don't know, I feel like that's some data that you just don't lose. You don't lose the technology on how to get there or how to do it or the shit you recorded when you were there. That's some shit that would be like, you might want to make copies of it, a bunch of copies. I don't know.
Let me ask you, if you would have went there, right, theoretically, would you think of taking any film of the Earth? Just saying. Just saying.
Oh, hell yeah.
Well,
Definitely.
how much film do you think they took of the Earth?
They got that one shot with the flag.
It's unbelievable. It's
Bro,
unbelievable. All that time, and they didn't take film, like hours and hours, like have a camera right on the Earth. Like, come on, man. Shout out the president.
is there any footage out there where the camera like is panning around in a 180 or 360 field of view, where you like that you can see the Earth in one place and on the other side the sun? Is something like that existing? Because I have not seen that.
Good question. There's so many things, the shadows, the ability to see where the set ends and where the picture in the background start. Like, it's
Right.
ridiculous.
And there's kind of this, I think it's called fourth wall argument, that on a set you won't be able to pan the camera 180 degrees because you will see the set, right?
You see, you talk about panning the camera. Me, I talk about the camera can't work.
All right.
You see what I'm saying? I don't even go there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey, I just posted a video I took this morning. I was driving south from North London towards London, and I saw the sun to on my left, and it was a red sky, and there was a red glow, a very narrow